Mr. President, I want to clarify something from Michelle Kaczynski's report from the White House. Did Putin tell you that if he wanted to, within 2 days, he could have his military in Kiev, in Warsaw, which is a NATO ally, in the Baltic states? Did he say that to you?
Well, that would be a very bad idea to bring the extract from the confidential negotiation and try to make a diplomacy using by this fact. So in that situation, my answer would be no. And I think that that can be extremely harmful to the very fragile peace process.
Right now, there's a ceasefire, so you don't want to confirm that he made that threat to you.
Absolutely.
But did he?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I got some other important issues we got to get to. In your address before Congress, you appealed to the United States to provide Ukraine what's called major non-NATO ally status. Other countries like Japan, South Korea, Israel, they have this status. You want it. What did the President of the United States tell you? Will Ukraine be a major non-NATO ally, which is very significant?
My answer would be, again, very straightforward. The answer of the President Obama was no.
He told you no?
He told me no because we already have a special status for the level of the cooperation with between the United States and Ukraine. The level of the security and defense cooperation is much higher than just the status of the NATO ally. For example, granting to the Argentina. And we are working on the special status for the strategic and defense and security partner of the United States, and I think that would be more efficient than just.
So you must be disappointed. You made the appeal before Congress. You were applauded.
Again,
they gave you a standing ovation when you made the appeal.
We received more than we asked.
So you're basically satisfied with what you got, even though you didn't get that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk.
We do not refuse. We received more than we asked, and we will have a special program for the cooperation in the security sector. We will have a special American team for reforming our security and defense sector. We will have a special way of cooperation for the trained and equipped program. We have enough, and I am completely satisfied with today's cooperation with the White House.
Here's what's very upsetting to me, as someone who's covered the collapse of the Soviet Union, the independence of Ukraine, the other republics of the former Soviet Union. I have here in my hand the Budapest Memorandum that was signed December 1994. It was signed by the President of Russia, the Russian Federation, Boris Yeltsin, President of the United States, William J. Clinton, John Major, Prime Minister of Britain, and others. And it guarantees Ukrainian sovereignty in exchange for Ukraine giving up its nuclear weapons. There would be no violation of we would respect the independent sovereignty, existing borders of Ukraine. Now, Russia violated. You believe Russia violated the Budapest Memorandum, right?
I'm assured that.
So how disappointed are you that the United States, Britain, the other signatories of this didn't do much, didn't do enough to prevent Russia from doing this?
Well, we should understand that this is not only the Budapest Memorandum is not working and collapsed. With the Russian invasion to Crimea, with the Russian aggression to the eastern part of Donetsk and Lugansk region of Ukraine, that was collapsed the whole total post-war security system in the world. Because what mechanism the world create just for the security? United Nations Security Council, NATO, General Assembly of the United Nations, the Special Regional Security Ally, and all these things are simply not working.
It's shocking that all of these, you gave up Ukraine. You had a lot of nuclear stockpiles inside, weapons. You gave them all up in exchange for an ironclad commitment from Russia, the U.S., Britain, that your sovereignty would be respected, and it wasn't.
Exactly. First
Look
of all,
at this
that
map
was
right
an
here,
obligation.
This is a map of Ukraine, including Crimea. We highlighted it for you. That's under Russian occupation right now.
Yeah. This is under Russian occupation, but no country in the world recognizes it. And I'm absolutely sure that sooner or later, within months, weeks, or short number of years, crime will come back to
How are you going to do that? What is Putin up to right now?
Because, look, this is the complete isolation territory. The Crimea will have no tourists, no investment, no trips, no export from the Crimean enterprises to anybody else. That is bring Crimea to collapse.
But that's why the pro-Russian separatists here, right, they're working to create a landmass to bring that whole area under Russian control, right?
Exactly, but that would name very clear name in the international law. This is an aggression an attack of the independent sovereign state.
Wasn't that international law violated with Crimea, the attack on Crimea?
But now you're saying that if it would be just a, they say, silent occupation, that the attempt to doing the same by the eastern part of Ukrainian Donetsk and Lugansk region will have a very severe response from Ukrainian army. And we simply do not allow to do that. But believe me, again, I'm a president of peace. We are in process of the peace plan. We have a ceasefire for the 12 days.
Is it working?
And every single day when we have a ceasefire, less Ukrainian soldiers, less Ukrainian civilians, less Russian soldiers are dead. And I'm absolutely sure that before end of this week, we will have a second stage of the Minsk Memorandum, which will be completely stop and withdraw the heavy artillery, rocket, missiles, reactive system, and anything like that. And I am absolutely, I promise I do my best to have this ceasefire bring to the real peace on the territory of Ukraine.
As you know, there are a lot of people who fear Putin not only wants parts of Ukraine, but other Moldova, Georgia. He's looking to expand that Russian empire right now. Do you believe that?
That's possible. And we should act responsibly. And we should have plan A for the peace plan and plan B. What the whole world community will do if the aggression will continue. Because again, this is not the war against Ukraine. This is the war against the free world. This is a war against the freedom, the democracy. And if we give the opportunity to act like that, like business as usual, that would be the danger for the whole global.
I was in Poland a few weeks ago, which is a NATO ally. They're worried over there.
Absolutely.
The Baltic states, they're all NATO allies, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're worried. Here's the question. You live right there. You're a lot closer to the scene than we are. Should they be worried, even though Article 5 of the NATO alliance says if there's any attack on them, all the NATO allies, including the U.S., would have to come to their defense?
Conflict in Ukraine bring absolutely new vision for the NATO approach for the security in the region and in the whole world. I think that now with the more states will spend more money on the security, and the level of the readiness of to defend their own country would be much higher. But I want to confirm you that we Ukrainians are ready to fight against the danger, against the aggressor. And this is not just a word, a slogan. My son are there.
Your son's in the Army?
Absolutely. And he's a volunteer. And he's graduating Eton, London School of Economics, INSEAD, Oxford. He's voluntarily.
He's a volunteer in the Army?
Absolutely. And he's a commander of the artillery unit. And his platoon lost wounded 4 persons during the last 3 weeks. And this is the very powerful signal. What does it feel? Not only a president, not only the citizen, but the father, understanding how dangerous is the process and how important it is to bring the peace to the territory.
Let me get your thought on MH17, the Malaysian airliner that was shot down over Ukraine. It's shocking to me that area where that plane went down, there could be bodies that are still that no one has even gone there to try to resolve that situation. Who do you blame for that?
This is absolutely sure that, first of all, we create the investigation commission, and I, as the president of Ukraine, give a leadership in this commission to the Dutch inspector, because the Dutch was the nation who suffered the most from this.
The only thing they said so far is that a missile shot it down, but they're not saying who's responsible.
Within a few days, a week, we will receive the preliminary report, and that would be absolutely sure demonstrating that this is a Russian weapons operated by Russian trained personnel, and the launch of the missile was done from the territory controlled by the Russian controlled the rebels and separatists. And this is was a very important demonstration how small is the world and how the global danger of the terrorism can attack in any country from Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia to Netherlands and the United States and Canada. So this is the way how we should fight against the terror on the Ukrainian territory, because this is not many thousand kilometers away. This is right here, and the danger of the terror is right here. And that's why I was very impressed by the today reaction of the ordinary American people which stopped me on the street with the the reaction of the congressman and senator in Congress, and with the reaction of the United States government, reaction of the White House, this understanding that this is the danger for the world. We have lots of conflict outside of Ukraine. We have ISIS, we have Syria, we have everything. But even during this situation, the President of the United States pay, I don't know, 60% of his time for the foreign policy to Ukraine to settle the crisis. And I think that is a lot, and this is very helpful. This is the true evidence for the leadership of